Talk about agriculture around the world. We'll begin in France and visit a vineyard in Burgundy. From there, we'll go to a Greek island and look at a pistachio farm. Third stop will be an olive tree orchard in Italy. Then we'll move to the Americas to the little island of Saint Lucia to discuss bananas. The next stop will be a sugarcane field in the Dominican Republic. And then we're going to go to the sacred valley of the Incas in Peru, where they grow quinoa and use it in practically everything. And lastly, we'll finish in China, where we discuss tea. Okay, so here we are somewhere in France. I'm not really sure. Where exactly are we? Burgundy, in other words. Okay, so you must know a little something about wine producing here in Burgundy? Oui. Okay, so tell us a little bit about wine in France, actually, how that works. What can you tell us about?
Oui, en fait, en France, on a plutôt tendance à nommer nos vins selon la région. Donc là, on est dans la région de Bourgogne, et donc les vins sont les vins de Bourgogne.
Wait, they're going to ask the question, is that going to be on a test? So yes, it will be. So what you're saying is in France that the wines are named after the region rather than the grape. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And so we're in the Burgundy region, and so, all right, continue.
Donc aux États-Unis, par exemple, vous avez tendance à nommer vos vins selon le cépage, le raisin. Donc vous avez Merlot, Pinot Noir, et là ce sont les raisins, au lieu de nommer les vins Napa, New-Yorkais ou quelque chose comme ça.
So what you're saying is in the United States we don't name it after the region, we name it after the grape, like the Merlot grape or the Pinot Noir grape and so on. Yeah. So it's a little bit different in the U.S. than it is in France. And now the grapes here, what would be the type of grape here in Burgundy?
Tous les vins de Bourgogne sont du Pinot Noir.
So it's a Pinot Noir grape here. So if you're looking in the store in the U.S., you might see a Pinot Noir. It's the same grape as it is here, but of course it's a different region and thus a different soil. That's kind of an important fact, isn't it here? And so, anything else we need to know?
Non, je peux.
Okay, on the island of Aegina in Greece, what we're looking at here are those are pistachios. Now this is May, late May, and they're not going to be ready till mid-August, maybe early September. It's quite interesting what they can make out of pistachios. Not just we think of it as just nuts, and then you have your roasted nuts. They have butter. They can make pesto out of it. It's amazing. You know, most pistachios actually are grown in Iran, which when there's conflict between the U.S. and Iran, that makes it very difficult. The other big place is California. This particular island is one of the unique islands. For some reason, there's something different about this island, at least on this side of the island, that they can grow pistachios. I did an okay near the Tuscan coast in Italy, and we see this is an olive tree right here. It's really quite interesting. You can see the green olives, and they're starting to turn. Some of these are turning into black olives, and I didn't try them, but apparently they're very bitter at this point. They're not ripe at all. So that's a whole farm of olive trees here in olive country, Italy. Grown with their blue bag.
Keep out the insects.
Now remember the blue bags, you can reuse them. It all depends on how well you handle your equipment not to cut them up. Now with the bananas itself, the bananas here are like humans. They take 9 months to bear and they bear only once. So every plant just bear one time. When the plant bears one time, it has to be cut down and it will act as fertilizer for the rest of them. Now, if you look near every mother plant, there is a younger plant. Every one big plant, next to them you see some smaller ones. The smaller ones are called the suckers. Now the bananas, they're very flimsy. They are made up, the plant itself is made up of at least 80% water and starch. That is why when the bananas are in full bloom, the farmer has to attach a rope to it to give it extra support, because the slightest breeze can toss it over. Now when the bananas are young, they are stored in a purple pod. The purple pod is basically the womb. So as the banana grows, the pod fills upward. That is why you find the banana hanging upside down. Now when they're done opening, they will look as small as this. At the end of each young grain of banana, there is normally some white flowers. The white flowers contain nectar. Therefore, the farmer has to pass around, pluck out the flowers by hand. That process is called deflowering. When he's done deflowering, that's hard work, eh? When he's done deflowering, you would place the blue bags over it. Now, if you look near at the end of every bag, there is a ribbon. That here is a ribbon where the farmer follows a calendar. So after deflowering, you would place the ribbon here.
Hola.
We have a ranch here.
No, gracias.
We have a ranch and we have...
So,
I just got that.
bueno. So this is a piece of sugar cane. I just pulled it off the ground. I didn't want to steal anybody's crops, but you know, sugar cane actually, it's actually quite interesting, because sugar cane back 500 BC was probably only grown in Polynesia, Indonesia, something like that. Eventually made its way about 400 BC to India, and of course from there it's made it all the way across the world. Here I am in Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic, and of course it was Columbus on voyage number 2 who brought sugarcane to the New World in 1493. And what we have here is, and what happened with that was, of course, it also brought slavery to the New World, because instead of small farms selling sugarcane, we now had big haciendas, big ranches making it, and they needed slavery. So that whole led molasses to rum to slaves, that whole bit here, because sugarcane was turned into molasses. Fields of Peru. Wow, it really is pretty. It's harvesting the wheat here. Yeah. So really, there's a reason why we don't have quinoa flavored ice cream in the States. And I know what that reason is. I'm in a little village called Longjin Tea Village in the mountains above West Lake in Hangzhou, China. And what they have here, this is the green tea capital of China, which makes it the green tea capital of the world. What you have behind me, of course, are tea bushes that make the Longjin green tea, which is considered, at least in these parts, to be among the best in the world. Now, there's green tea and there's black tea. I personally am not a green tea fan. I'm more of a black tea person, and I'm actually more of a black coffee than black tea. But you know, an old saying, for all the tea in China, you know, China has of course been the capital of tea for centuries. So there's the worker in the tea fields. Looks like he's spraying around the bushes, so I would guess that's a pesticide, keeping everything clear on the path.